Trying to make sure. All right, guys, I think we are live. What do you know? What do you know? I want to welcome everybody. This is the first inaugural kicking off Circle City Goats and Dogs podcast. I want to welcome everybody. I don't know if this is going to be a one and crash or we're going to be successful here tonight, but we're going to give it our best go. Hopefully, all of us stay awake long enough to enjoy the conversation a little bit. But this is a new project for lifelong buddies growing up in Dothan, Alabama. And we've got so many stories to share, or at least most of those stories we can share. We've been enjoying them for years. I don't know how much of them are actual truths anymore. There's a little bit of memory loss in there, but there's a grain of truth in all of these stories. But end result is we all end up just full of belly laughs and great friendships. But I want to welcome Chris Lee out of Nashville. Rufus, good to see you, bud.
Good to see you.
Chris Maddox out of Dothan, good to see you.
Hi, everyone.
And assuming he's still awake, we got Shane Wood.
Yeah.
Good to see you, bud. All right, fellas. I know that I did not twist your arms to be here tonight, but we've had such fun over the years talking about so many of these stories and experiences and life lessons and just fun things. Where I want to start with this whole project is, how did each of your families get to Dothan? Now, I'll go last. Rufus, we'll start with you. So share, how'd your family end up in Dothan?
Yeah, it's funny. Mom and Dad grew up in Eufaula and Abbeville, but then Dad's training took him all over the country. So we moved back to Dothan in 1970 from Los Alamos, New Mexico, which many of you who know, that may be a lot of explanation about me. I was born in Los Alamos, New Mexico. So when I moved back from Houston, we moved from Los Alamos to Houston, back to Dothan in 1970, believe it or not.
Well, very good. All right. And Chris, why don't we go with you, bud?
Okay. So I was born in the booming metropolis of Port St. Joe, Florida, and moved to Dothan when I was 6 months old. My dad got a different job in the corrugated box industry, and that brought him to Dothan. And I was just lucky that he and my mom decided to bring me with them. So there you go. So I moved here when I was 6 months old, and it's been home ever since.
Very good. All right, Shane, what about your family? How'd you end up in Dothan?
I was born in Columbus, Georgia, way back around the turn of the century. No, I was born in Columbus. My parents divorced when I was 8, and a year or so later, my mom remarried, and the gentleman that she married was actually from Ozark. And when they started discussing where they would live, they picked Dothan. So I moved here in 75.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, we were just being born.
Oh.
All right. Hold on. Not yet, Chris. I'll tell you when. Nomberg family moved from the New York area in the 40s, made their way to Dothan in 48, I believe. So our family's been in Dothan since the late 40s. And Dad was stationed in Fort Lee in Virginia when I was born in Baltimore. The weekend before Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. That was a fun time, I'm sure, for my family trying to get out of Maryland and Virginia. But as you guys know, I grew up and lived in Dothan through high school. Now, we were just talking before we went live about how did we all meet? And Maddox, I want you to kind of set the stage for where you, Rufus, and I first met, really, over at We Wisdom.
Yeah, so I bet we got some people looking tonight that actually attended kindergarten at We Wisdom, where you could either be a red bird or a bluebird. And so fortunately, Chris Lee and I both made it through Redbirds, and of course you were with us, Bernard, but you were never a problem child like Chris Lee was. But we got through Redbirds. We soared into Bluebirds, which was upstairs, of course.
Mhm.
And but that back then, public school didn't have kindergarten back then. So if you went to kindergarten, it wasn't even required. So if you went, you had to find a place like Wee Wisdom, and so that's where we all initially met.
Hold on. I got to ask LaDon McDaniel, who's watching us. LaDon, were you at Wee Wisdom with us? LaDon, of course, the same age, same class, but went to Dothan High. And we competed in sports with him all growing up. But yeah, I'm going to find one of those Wee Wisdom photos. I know I have it around here, and I'll show it next time. So Shane, when did you come into the picture with us? When did we first cross paths with Wood?
Well, I think you and I were at Wilson Street togetger, third grade.
Fourth and fifth grade.
Yeah, okay. That is, when you and I met, the Chris's there, we did not meet until high school. Chris Lee, or Rufus, I met in ninth grade when he came over and we started playing football. And then Chris probably a year or so after that.
All right, we just heard from LaDon. He can't deny or admit he was a bluebird or a redbird. So we'll let that go for now. Thanks, LaDon.
It's a great answer.
Yeah. All right. My first home was on Rebecca Avenue, which at the time was behind the Putt-Putt. Was also, I think, First Alabama Bank, right off not far from Girard Elementary, Girard Middle School. Obviously, Rob Arnold and Catherine Lee, a whole bunch of folks lived down that same street. And I know that Chris, Maddox, you lived around the corner from where we live. What was your street?
Yeah, if you went down Rebecca to Cherokee,
Mm-hmm.
you turned left on Cherokee and went across Montgomery Highway and went down a little ways. On the right-hand side, there was a street called Sullivan Drive.
Mm-hmm.
My first house I lived in was 1985 Sullivan Drive.
Well, we're going to come back to that in a minute. Rufus, did you grow up on Osceola?
West North, believe it or not. Yeah. So I was right near Crez at 1404 West North, which is now, Chris, help me out. It's right around the corner.
It's called Chickasaw now.
Chickasaw, because you can imagine trying to tell the police where to go west north. They didn't have a clue where to go. So yeah.
And Shane, where was your first home? Where'd you grow up?
Over on Fairmont, which is 2 streets over from Heritage Baptist Church, right there. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's right off Westgate Parkway, but that was the area that I grew up.
All right, I got to ask, Paige Robinson McNamara, were you a bluebird or a redbird at Wee Wisdom? We need to know.
It's important.
It's very important. Hey, Aristotle, good to see you, buddy. We got Dothan City Commissioner AOK in the house. We got in the house right now, but not many Dothanites right now. Is that the right word? Chris, Shane, is it Dothanites?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, whatever. All right. This is a little, I'm sure my mother will cringe when we tell this story, but probably the first time I ever went over to Maddox's house on Sullivan Drive, not too far from mine. I guess it was let's go play after kindergarten or whatever it was. Go ahead and repeat what Peg has told so many times. Yeah. What was my response when seeing your house for the first time?
So my dear sweet mama still laughs about this story. So we pull up in the driveway at Sullivan Drive with Bernard in the car with us, and of course he looks at our house and he looks at my mom and he goes, "Sure is small."
Now my house on Rebecca was probably 1,500 to 1,800 square feet. It was probably smaller than your house at the time, but I guess kids just don't have much of a filter.
I say the darndest things, right?
That's right. We got David Crutchfield in the house. My mom now has egg on her face. She just OMG'd. We got Coach Randy Hicks. Let's see any other Dothan folks. Oh, we got Joel Smith out of Eufaula. Hey, Joel. We got Tamarise Fulford, who used to live in Dothan. A whole bunch of folks in the house tonight.
Hey, Bernard, real quickly, tell Aristotle and David they're only a few commissioners away from violating the sunshine laws right now. So they got to
Yeah.
be careful.
Who else do we need to, is Gant Pierce? Who do we need to not have on the?
Yeah, Gann does not need to. Well, you can get 3 and not violate the sunshine laws.
All right. Well, I just won't mention them if any of the other commissioners from Dothan show up. I
But
didn't
Gant's
know we'd
still
be
welcome.
in. I didn't know we'd be in such high company tonight. But you never
Wait,
know.
wait till episode 2 airs, right?
Oh, you have no idea the ratings, guys. I want to talk about growing up in Dothan in the 70s. One quick memory I have was from about 1973 when we had such a massive snowstorm. I say that probably a couple of inches in Dothan. I remember walking to my grandparents' house and my mom put Wonder Bread bags over my shoes so I could walk. We didn't have any proper clothing back then. Do y'all remember any of the snowstorm from back then? But I just wanted to kick it off about talking about life growing up in Dothan in the early 70s.
Bernard, I was fortunate enough to have an older brother. Russell was my brother, went to Dothan High School. Shout out to him. And what I remember is Northside Mall and taking me to Good Times. He took me to Good Times, and man, we'd play those arcade games like nothing else in the fountain down in Northside Mall, and played a game. I think it was Space Invaders, which was a pinball game, not the arcade game. And I would win enough games that I could actually sell the games to other kids for quarters, so Russell could play Asteroids. I just remember doing that and riding your bike over to Northside Mall all the time. That was just the place to be.
Well, Maddox, you had a back door through the neighborhood to get there.
Yeah, where I moved up into our medium-sized house, according to you, Bernard, after the small house. We lived where we were pretty close behind the Northside Mall, and there was an apartment complex back there called Rock Creek, and we lived just outside the apartment complex. So you could ride your bike through the apartment complex and across the bridge and come into the backside of Northside Mall. So Chris Lee and I spent a large amount of our childhoods in Good Times, and there is no telling how many quarters together we dropped in that place. I mean, we lived in that place.
Shane, isn't it funny that we still call the new mall, which was created and opened after we went to college?
Yeah.
That's the new mall, the Wiregrass Commons Mall, not the Northside Mall, which was, I guess, the original, which was built in the maybe late 60s, early 70s. Do y'all still call it the new mall? At least in my mind, that's what it is. It's almost 40 years old, but yeah.
I think Shane would tell you that's the mall on life support right now. It's not doing real well, is it, Wood?
No, not that great. I spent some time at Good Times, and I remember going to the mall and just walking the mall. I mean, like you would go up, down, you walk, to lower the fountain level, then back up.
Wait, you're not talking about now to get your exercise. You mean as a kid?
No, I'm talking about as a young
wheelchair.
Yeah, before we had the cars where we could cruise around the mall, we just got to walk through the mall and see, hey, who you run into or who's there.
That's right. That's right.
I remember that.
Guys, I want to welcome, we got Tom Sorrells, we got Faye Flowers Phillips, we got Kelly Allison Dye, we got Sissy Carol Reynolds are all here with us tonight, all Dothanians or Dothanites or whatever we're calling folks in Dothan. One of the big things for me, and maybe this was 7th or 8th grade, when we had moved over to Selkirk near Academy and Westgate, I was allowed to still ride my bike to my grandparents on North Orange. And that's kind of, 4 or 5 miles, but I'm crossing over the circle, several lights. And I kind of thought that was a big deal, 7th, 8th grade time period. But you could do that back then. I mean, the circle was the circle, but it certainly wasn't as, to me, it wasn't nearly as populated and as crowded and as developed, obviously, as it is now. What do you guys see, Shane and Maddox, when you're driving around Dothan now? Could you envision letting your kids drive across
No, you wouldn't ride that path on a bike for sure. And your parents would be in quite a bit of trouble for allowing it, I'm sure.
Well, Chris Lee and I just went across the circle on Choctaw. So from my house, you could get to Choctaw, and then we would just cut across the circle on Choctaw. So you just waited for the light and went with the light. So it really wasn't that big of a deal. The biggest change in terms of what was old bike trails in Dothan, if you guys remember, was where Sam's is now. All of that used to be woods.
Mhm.
And there were multiple trails cut through those woods. And so if you ever went to Hardee's, the old Hardee's, back in the day where Lowe's is now in Dothan, or excuse me, where Home Depot is, and you could either ride or walk your bike across into those woods, and you could cut through and come out close to Girard, what was then called Girard Middle School. And those woods are gone now because it's been built up and it's Sam's. But there is allegedly a tunnel that you may or may not can take a cart under the Ross Clark Circle that comes out behind the old, remember where Hooters was in Dothan? So
Been there.
I mean, I've not done that myself. I've just heard rumor.
Yeah.
No, Bernard, in sixth grade, I used to ride my bike to Houston Academy from west north all the way there.
Well, I was going to say, Chris, that's a long way back then.
Yeah, it was never an issue. I used to ride my bike every day.
Now, you guys, Chris and the Chris and the other Chris, y'all were at Houston Academy through what grades?
Eighth grade.
Who's the other Chris? I want to know that first.
Yes, it's my cousin Chris and my other cousin Chris.
Yeah, first through eighth.
And then Shane, you and I, like we said, we were together at least at Wilson Street. I was at Girard Elementary as well. Were you there?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Yeah. I remember going to your bar mitzvah.
Oh, we're not there yet. That's years later. That's years later.
12 years old. Oh, yeah. I'm skipping a lot.
You are, but I want to welcome Coach Johnny Oppert is with us tonight. Hey, Coach, thanks for
Coach.
joining in. Talk about coaching and Dothan royalty right there in the house.
That's a legend right there, sir.
Coach
Yes, sir.
Hicks,
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
All right, I got to share a photo that's gonna. Oh, this is gonna be fun. You gotta.
We're all scared because none of us know what he's about to share.
All right, tell me if you guys can see this awesome photo.
Look at it. Oh my goodness.
Oh, Bill Maddox. Oh god.
I got Bill Maddox as one of the coaches on the right, and Mr. Jim Palmer. I can't remember Jeff's dad's name.
I think that's right.
The other coach, and then
That's the Yankees Confederate League team from Doug 2.
from 1974, I believe. So we'd have been 5-6 years old.
Wow, look at that bunch of studs right there.
Right in the middle, the kid with the Y on his hat for Yankees. That's yours truly. We got Maddox to my left and Arnold to my right. I got
Look at my glove that was bigger than my head.
behind me.
Oh yeah.
Brian Holman next to him.
Oh my gosh. That is
I don't
amazing.
recognize any other guys on there. I got Jeff Palmer to the left.
Hey Bernard, I had forgotten how much money they spent on uniforms for us back then.
I mean, I don't even know if that's purple, but those are some sweet unis right there.
Absolutely.
I guess we only had enough money for one kid to wear baseball pants or two. Brian's got on a pair, and the kid next to you's got on. He's even got stirrups in.
Jeff Palmer's sporting a sweet white leather belt, it looks like in that picture.
But doesn't this predate the building of an opening of Westgate?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's Doug 2 in the back, isn't it? Is that Doug 2 in the back?
Yeah. It is Doug 2, because when Westgate opened officially, we all started playing Dixie Minor. 9 and 10-year-old baseball.
So we're talking 1974 with this picture. Then there's another picture where you and I and Rob are on the same Yankees team the next year.
Yeah.
And then by then, maybe Westgate had opened. And
I
it's
think that's probably
true.
right.
It's true. Your dad helped convince me not to quit baseball. It's true. The next year, he wanted, or somebody put me at catcher. I didn't want to be catcher, but your dad was instrumental in getting me to stay the course.
What's wrong with being catcher, Bernard? I was the
And
only one that.
I know, but I repaid the Maddox family many years later by jumping off of their diving board. But we'll save that for another conversation. Anyway, I just wanted to share that photo with you guys. I don't know if you've seen it in a while, but yeah, Bill Maddox saved the day.
That's good stuff.
Now, Shane, I don't remember you playing baseball. Did you play Little League baseball at all?
Well, I played a league ahead of you guys because I played. You mentioned Coach Operate. I played on Circle City, Texaco, and I was the baby on the team. But David Vollinger, Gary Operate, I was the baby on that team. But no, I didn't play at Doak 2.
Y'all see how I wove into Shane's age, but didn't even mention it?
Yeah.
He played up.
All right. Now we've really kind of gotten into some of our backgrounds a little bit. And part of what I had envisioned for our conversations, depending on how long we go tonight, 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever time y'all want to spend tonight, I want to leave the mid 70s. I want to leave the time period of us just getting into elementary and middle school time and put that on pause for the next time we get together next Sunday, hopefully. But I want to come forward to now. It's our friendships span 50 years already or more. Doesn't feel like it. Doesn't look like it. Well, one of us, but it really crazy how 50 years later, we're here today and we're still cutting up. And thankfully, we live close enough together geographically. We get together once or twice a year in person. We occasionally see each other. And that's, it's these core memories that keep these friendships alive. And they're some of my cherished memories, cherished friendships. But I want to talk about current versions of the three of y'all, or the four of us. We're going to start with the guy who currently has a heating blanket on his lap because he didn't want to get cold during the conversation, even though he's in a heated room that probably either has a fireplace or a space heater nearby. So I'll let that fella who happens to reside near Nashville kick off what he does now, tell a little bit about his family life and things like that.
So you had to lead with that because everybody knows with the guitar in the back. Yes, I have a heating blanket. Getting old. So yeah, in Nashville, currently working at Vanderbilt at the Children's Hospital. My wife's doing a lot of volunteer work. I have an 18-year-old who rising senior. So yeah, getting old. I will say, Bernard, I said what we talked about earlier is I played golf today, and it was sunny, beautiful, and I'm in full thermals with pants, hand heaters, everything else, and trying not to get cold. And I have to tell you, in the old days, playing ball, baseball, or football, we never would have had any of that stuff. But I have to tell you, getting old, it ain't for sissies, as our parents used to say. But I have to tell you, I think we're there.
So you're not walking around everywhere with your shirt off like you used to, Rufus. Is that what I'm hearing?
I always wore a shirt, Shane. Thank you very much.
Oh, no.
He's not talking about just when you left the house.
I seem to have pictures that tell a different story. Get into next.
That was back when you actually had something that didn't look so bad. Now you gotta wear a shirt.
It sounds like you're suffering from OMD.
Yeah.
Old man disease.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we don't want to hear about all your how many times you wake up at night. We don't need to go into that stuff. But we'll go to other Chris, his cousin in Dothan.
Oh, we know who the other Chris is.
Well, he's one cousin Chris, the other cousin Chris. But
his brother from another mother. I got it.
that's right.
Yeah. I've been practicing law in Dothan for 30 years. This may be actually 31st year. And married for 26 years. And I've got 4 children. The good Lord blessed us with all females. And I don't know how that happened, to be honest with you, because, I thought I was pretty nice guy to the women back in the day, but I got 4 girls that are 25, 23, 21, and 15. And so we're having a big time. The oldest one works here in Dothan. Well, the 2 oldest ones work here in Dothan. And then the 21-year-old is going to school, and the 15-year-old is obviously going to school. Although I think she's at Disney World right now with some friends. So
the caboose is living the life, isn't she?
she lives the life. She lives the good life too. Yes, as her older siblings would tell you in a minute if given the opportunity.
In a heartbeat. Yes. All right, Wood.
Well, moved back here from Auburn and started working with Lewis and Associates, now Lewis Construction, Mike Lewis, his dad's business since '92 in construction. Been married, this year will be 24 years. I have a daughter who will be 19. She is a freshman at Troy, and my son is a junior at Dothan High School, formerly known as Northview.
You see how hard it was for him to say Dothan High? I caught that. Okay, we're going to get into that later on, and we won't that tonight. So let me get this straight. We've got 6 of the 7 kids from the 3 of y'all are all girls.
Plus your 2.
Plus my 2.
Yeah.
So we got 1 boy and 8 girls in the crew. Of course, I've been in Birmingham since '94. Sydney, my oldest, lives across town. She's in the wedding planning business. Emily, my youngest, is in medical school at Auburn and loving it. But we just found out her 3rd year is going to be at Grandview here in Birmingham. So she gets to move this summer. So we're real excited about that for her. I practice law with my brother David. We have for 21 years now together. And we're having a good time up here. Guys, we got a bunch of folks to welcome, a whole bunch of Dothan. Wow. Julie Poole Bowles, Robert Edward Lee, John Reddick, Alana Andrew Gray, Steve Pryor. There's so many that some of them have already rolled off, but thank you guys, all these Dothanians. We're going to stick with Dothanians. I think that's the way we go with it.
Okay.
Does he get to make that decision living in Birmingham? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought we voted before we came on board. All right. I want to know, are you guys doing any exercising these days? Truth.
And I just have to tell you, so Bernard, when we moved to Nashville, I didn't do anything, and this is a true story. I decided when it was -3 to go to the gym for the first time. The YMCA was great. I decided to do boot camp, and I did boot camp for 10 years. And I mean, it was death from 5:30 in the morning to 7 o'clock every morning. It was boot camp. Mm-hmm. Best shape probably I've been in probably since high school. Mm-hmm. But the problem was when you're doing boot camp and you're late 40s, early 50s, and you're in boot camp with, quite honestly, this is going to sound terrible. I don't mean it that way. Young people that are in their 20s, mainly females, who are lapping you. I was like, I've got to go. I got to go hard. And I would go hard as can be. We're flipping tires. We're doing crab walk up hills. We're doing all that stuff. It caused a lot of orthopedic visits. So I had shots in both shoulders, shots in both knees, shots in my ankles. And my orthopedist said, "You're going to come in and have knee surgery before you're 50." And I said, I don't like that answer. And I kept doing it. And finally, I got the ultimatum: he's not going to give me any more shots in shoulders and knees. And honestly, it was COVID. COVID ended a lot of the stuff, a lot of the gym, and I need to get back to it. I really do need to get back to it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going to the gym, but COVID really, being in healthcare, as you can imagine, really kind of knocked my working out stuff.
You need to quit watching the 20s and 30-year-olds and just stay in your lane, dude. You can't compete. It's like
I was trying to keep up. I wasn't watching. I was trying to keep up.
Okay. I play pickup basketball, but I'm not guarding the guys who are half my age. I have shirts that are older than some of these guys. I guard the guys that are my age. I want to welcome Michelle Johnson Hart and Michael Canny to our lovely little program here. Yeah, I guess for you, golf could be considered your exercise of the day these days.
As much as I hate to say it, Bernard, I never considered golf exercise, and now I'm considering it exercise.
Yeah, you're going to wake up sore in the morning. All right, Rufus, that's good for you. All right, Shane, please tell me you're doing something at all to exercise.
I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell the doctor every year when I get my physical. Yeah, I'm working out a couple times. I mean, I'm exercising a couple times a week. Usually it's on Saturday doing yard work, but that's about the extent of mine. Sorry.
You don't have to look, I'm not your keeper. You don't have to apologize to me, that's for sure. All right, Chris.
Videos of you walking mountains and all this stuff, and I'm like, man, Bernard's in good shape.
I like to eat. I have to work out.
Yeah, so I've gotten into pickleball for the last 2 years pretty deeply. That's really in terms of consistently getting any exercise. And yes, pickleball is exercise if you play hard. But yeah, that's all I'm doing right now.
Sydney's been trying to get me into pickleball for 3 years. She plays in a very active group, and I just hadn't picked it up. It looks fun. It looks challenging.
It's big fun. Yes.
All right. Speaking of challenging, I want to know. We only got a couple more topics. We'll get out of here for the night. Raising all these daughters, one son. Do you ever catch yourself when you're about to say something to one of your children to either discipline them or give a life lesson, and it immediately takes you back to something stupid that one of us did back in the day? Oh, okay, Chris. All right.
Yeah, I don't have that. Doesn't ring a bell.
All right. So while Chris and other Chris figure out their stories, I'm going to go straight to Shane, because I suspect he'll be the most direct and honest sharing with this.
Oh yeah, I've had many occasions where I've given instruction and a thought would pop in there, and I would just push it out and go, they've got to do what's best for them now. They might not have survived my childhood, so they've got to do what's best for them now. They don't need to know all that information.
Yeah, we've lived a lot of the do as I say, not as I did mode around my house.
I got news for you, and I know being experienced dads, you know this. Never underestimate what your children already know. They have something we never had at their fingertips. Absolutely.
Now, I did with mine. My parents didn't do this, like Chris, it was because I said so. I try to explain this is why, and this, explain where I'm coming from so they kind of can understand why I said no or why I say what I say.
All right. If Chris, you got your story straight, you can share now.
I'm just glad there was no social media when we were coming through back in the day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Right there, buddy Rowe. Spot on.
60.
And none of these right here, I can tell
Yes.
you that.
Yes.
We want to welcome, hey, Tracy Carey. Good to see you, bud. It's good to see you the other day at lunch. Thanks for stopping by for a minute or two. All right, Rufus, we got to hear a story. We need to know something that we're not going to let you get out of here tonight without sharing, as has been said, do as I say, not as I did back in the day moment.
Oh gosh. Oh, Bernard, you opened up a topic that so many things just kind of came crashing in, and many I can't share. I will say, Maddox may remember this. This may go a little bit further in the timeline that you're talking about, but when Mom and Dad were selling the house on West North Street, I was, in college, and this is not something I would recommend. So younger people don't do this. Mom called me and said, "I can't believe you did this to me." And I said, "I don't understand what you're talking about." Under the bed, and I'm just going to prelim, there may be some conversations. If I point that way and this way, there may be some other conversations or stories about that. There were realtor signs under my bed, many of them. And I say many of them. Yes, Bernard, you're knowing what I'm going there. Under the bed of my house that I used to use as targets. We used to take them and put them up as targets. Little did I know those are very expensive, that realtors would have. And the realtor that I had under my bed was selling my mother's house. So
You don't
they
mean
were
the
her
actual
signs.
person.
Yes, that person. And they were very offended that I had their sons that had obviously taken out of people's yards and was using as targets. So I would not recommend that. And I will leave that as a story that I know others could share in episodes coming.
Yeah, that's. I think where we're going to pause for tonight, and as a way of a tease, there will be stories shared in the upcoming episodes. We may redact some names, we may not redact some names, depends on how many adult beverages certain people have had into the evening. But I do want to share with you guys what I envision for the upcoming few episodes, and we're going to do a short run of these. Hopefully, we don't run out of topics or bore too many people. That life in Dothan, growing up in a small town in southern Alabama, was probably not that unique compared to other small towns across the South in the 70s and 80s. But what I really want to focus on maybe next episode is really what was unique about growing up in Dothan? What made it fun? What made life in Dothan just different for each of us, either collectively or when we got together or individually? Being a Jewish guy growing up in Dothan, I'm clearly in a very minority. There's only a couple of us in school going through. I didn't have some of the issues that a lot of my friends did back then, but in the 70s and 80s, that was an issue for some folks. Religion has always been one of those hot topics, especially in Dothan, along with barbecue, boiled peanuts, and some other things. But guys, I don't know if there's a great way to conclude tonight's episode other than thanking Shane for staying awake for these 35 plus minutes. It was a minor miracle. Yes, he took a nap a couple of hours ago. Thank you, Misty, for getting him up.
There may have been a
Chris, you got any parting words for this evening?
Talk about Chris
That'd
Lee.
be the other Chris.
the other Chris.
Either Chris or other Chris.
The other Chris. Yeah, no, I've thoroughly enjoyed getting together with you fellas, and there will be some things we certainly cannot tell in this group. No matter what the statute of limitations is, as you pointed out, Bernard. But
That's right.
but we should have a good time. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and maybe we'll come up with some stories that people haven't heard before about our crazy bunch, and we'll try to.
Well, we've got a lot of story. I got a lot of photos we're going to share in the upcoming weeks, episodes. I've got a whole bunch of stories that go with it, and I know it's going to generate a lot of laughs. So thank you, fellas. Y'all don't sign off. This was our first episode of Circle City Goats and Dogs. If you can figure out, goats and dogs is referring to just when we're at the top of our game and when we're at the bottom of our miseries at times growing up in Dothan, Alabama. You guys have a good evening. Fellas, hang on before we sign off. We'll talk to you guys next week.